I came home expecting nothing more than a quiet evening. Instead, I pulled into my driveway and froze. My garage was packed from wall to wall with furniture. Expensive leather couches, dining tables, lamps, office desks, filing cabinets, and dozens of labeled boxes filled every inch of the space. I honestly thought a moving company had delivered everything to the wrong address. Then reality hit me. My garage had been completely empty that morning. I hadn't given anyone permission to enter my property, let alone use it as a storage warehouse. Someone had broken onto my property without asking. I immediately checked my security cameras. The footage revealed everything. Earlier that afternoon, a moving truck with the HOA logo had pulled into my driveway. Several movers opened my garage and began unloading furniture as if they owned the place. Standing nearby, directing the entire operation, was the HOA president. She pointed to different corners of the garage, instructed the movers where to stack the furniture, and casually walk around inspecting their work with complete confidence. Not once did she hesitate. Not once did she knock on my door. She behaved like my property belonged to the neighborhood. About half an hour later, she finally rang my doorbell. When I opened the door, she smiled as though nothing unusual had happened. "Our clubhouse is being renovated," she explained. "We'll just use your garage for a few weeks." She said it like she was doing me a favor. I stared at her for a moment, trying to decide whether she was joking. She wasn't. I calmly told her there had obviously been a misunderstanding. "My garage isn't community property," I said. "You need to remove everything immediately." Her smile disappeared. She folded her arms and replied, "Your garage wasn't being used anyway." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Unused doesn't mean available. It certainly doesn't mean public. I repeated my request. "Take everything out today." She rolled her eyes. Then she claimed the HOA had authority to temporarily use homeowner property during community emergencies. That statement caught my attention. "Amazing," I replied. "Show me that rule." She couldn't. Instead of producing any document, she accused me of refusing to help the neighborhood. According to her, I was selfish. According to me, she was trespassing. Neither of us changed our position. She eventually walked away, clearly expecting me to give up. She had no idea how badly she had misjudged the situation. That evening, I carefully reviewed local property laws. I also called an attorney to confirm my options. After explaining everything and sharing the camera footage, I received exactly the answer I expected. The furniture had been placed inside my garage without permission. I wasn't required to store someone else's property indefinitely. The next morning, I contacted a professional storage and removal company. I explained that an authorized property had been left inside my garage. They knew exactly how to handle situations like this. Within hours, a crew arrived. Before touching anything, they photographed every piece of furniture from multiple angles. Each item was carefully documented, tagged, and inventoried. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was damaged. The workers loaded sofas first. Then tables. Cabinets followed. Boxes disappeared one after another. By the time the sun fully rose, my garage looked exactly the way it had the day before. Empty. Clean. Mine. The removal company transported everything to a secure commercial storage facility. Following legal advice, the storage account was opened using the HOA's official information and the HOA president's contact details. Every receipt was saved. Every document was organized. Everything was handled by the book. Around lunchtime, a familiar SUV raced into my driveway. The HOA president jumped out before the vehicle had completely stopped. She marched straight toward my garage. The moment she looked inside, her expression changed from confidence to complete disbelief. The garage was empty. She spun around and demanded to know where the furniture had gone. I calmly handed her the storage facility paperwork. "The furniture wasn't stolen," I explained. "It was professionally removed from my private property." She barely looked at the documents. Instead, she started shouting, "You had no right to touch HOA property." I looked at her for a second before answering. "And you had no right to put HOA property inside my garage." She had no response. Within minutes, neighbors began gathering along the sidewalk. Some watched from their driveways. Others stood on their porches. A few quietly recorded the argument with their phones. Several residents weren't even surprised. Apparently, this wasn't the first time the HOA president had ignored property boundaries. Then she made the biggest mistake of the entire day. She called the police. I almost smiled. If anyone was going to settle the argument objectively, it would be them. When the officers arrived, they spoke with each of us separately. The HOA president insisted I had stolen community property. I simply invited the officers inside and showed them the security footage. They watched the video from beginning to end. The recording clearly showed the moving truck entering my driveway. It showed the movers unloading furniture into my garage. Most importantly, it showed the HOA president personally directing the entire operation. There was no misunderstanding. There was no confusion. The evidence spoke for itself. I also gave the officers copies of the storage company's inventory, photographs, transportation receipts, and storage agreement. Every document matched the timeline perfectly. Nothing had been hidden. Nothing had been destroyed. One of the officers turned toward the HOA president. Did the homeowner give you permission to store these items here? She remained completely silent. Several uncomfortable seconds passed. That silence answered the question better than any explanation could. The officers explained that private property couldn't be used as community storage without the owner's consent. Unauthorized placement of property could create civil liability and potential legal consequences. The HOA president suddenly had nothing left to argue. She quietly accepted the paperwork and left. Over the next several days, the HOA paid thousands of dollars in moving expenses, storage fees, and transportation costs just to recover the furniture. When residents learned what had happened, they were furious. Many homeowners had no idea their HOA dues were being spent fixing a problem that never should have existed. Several demanded financial records. Others questioned the HOA board's leadership. The furniture incident quickly became the biggest topic in the neighborhood. As for me, I finally parked my car back inside my garage that same evening. It was peaceful again. No furniture. No unauthorized visitors. No surprises. Just my property exactly the way it was supposed to be. Word spread quickly throughout the community. After that day, nobody from the HOA ever attempted to use my garage for storage again. Sometimes people only learn boundaries after they are forced to deal with the consequences of crossing them. And judging by the expensive lesson the HOA had to pay for, I don't think they'll forget this one anytime soon.